Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, we would like to welcome our distinguished speakers and our honored guest today to our session, bringing bridging communities, family, faith, and cultural identity across borders. Thank you all for being today with us, and we hope to have an engaging and fruitful conversation together. We'll start our panel today with our beloved featured speaker today, Ms. Einat Lavi, a strategic consultant and entrepreneur specializing in Morocco and regional cooperation across the MENA region. We are so happy that you and your colleague are with us today.
Thank you for having me. Sorry. Salam lekul jami, shalom. Thank you for coming. And before we start, I want to give my colleague George, because both of us are from We Are MENA, to say a few words, and then we'll begin.
Hi, I'm George. I'm a co-founder and managing director of the We Are MENA network. Just in 2 words, we're the region's first network of youth-focused organizations and institutions promoting tolerance, collaboration, mutual understanding, and peace between all the peoples of our region. Our mission is to rehumanize one another and build a brighter future for all of us, and bring together institutions like Emirate Scholar, like the Kurdish organization Yekmal that's here, like Noal from Israel that's here, that are building hope for the next generation. And we set out on this research project to do it not just based on our intuitions, but based on a data-driven way, and not let it with a team from Morocco, a bit Europe as well. And they're fantastic, and I really want to thank her for doing an amazing job on that, and also Emirate Scholar for collaborating with us on the research and on this presentation right now. So thank you so much. And
Thank you. Okay, so every research begins with one moment. And this research began in Rabat with a visit of a delegation from the We Are MENA network. It happened in October 2022, and it was very diverse delegation coming from Israel with Jews, Arabs, Druze, Muslim, Christians. And I thought how to address them, because I met them for a lecture. I was working back then in diplomacy. And I thought the main question that was interesting here is, what is the role of youth in the MENA region? And I want to say why this research matters. So there are 3 reasons. One is that the MENA region is still the least integrated region in the world. You know, we experience a lot of conflicts. But there are some initiatives to promote regionalization and peace across the region. But they are mainly state-led, and they are not translated into people-to-people ties. And the last reason is because we've seen in the last decade a lot of youth organizations emerge in the region. They could play a pivot role in promoting collaboration, cross-border collaboration, but yet they're an underutilized group, and there is not a lot of data on this topic. So our key research is what role do youth organizations play in shaping regional cooperation across MENA. And our main argument will be that youth are not only socio-economic problem or a policy target, but they are strategic actors capable of building bottom-up regionalism through all kinds of means, and we will relate to it soon. There are 5 research objectives. One is to map youth ecosystem, and we also mapped youth organizations from the region. Second is to analyze successful models for collaboration, but also the failures, because there is a lot to learn from it. Third, to identify opportunities and challenges. Then generate actionable recommendations for the organization, for other stakeholders, for decision makers as well. And lastly, to use the research also to foster dialogue across the region. So the research is just a starter, and I want to say that my colleague Aram Akil here has an executive summary, so whoever is interested can get a copy. And a little bit about the research in numbers. We had a total mapping of 125 youth organizations from the region, coming from 26 countries from the Middle East, North Africa, and the Gulf area, mapped according to 22 criteria. And out of this mapping, we chose 10 organizations, and we conducted in-depth interviews with them. We also had a mapping of 25 national youth strategies from different countries in the region, out of which we chose 3 case studies, and we dedicated a whole chapter in the research about it. And the countries are UAE, Morocco, and Jordan. And to understand better what can be the role of youth in promoting cross-border collaboration, we also need to say something about regionalism. What is it and how it is conducted? And this is why we embraced the theory of Hatne and Soderbaum, which described regionalism as a gradual process. And they mentioned 5 stages coming from the regional space, which has almost no interaction between the countries, to regional complex, regional society, regional community, and up to regional state. Of course, the level of interaction in regional society and community is much deeper with civic ties, etc. So basically, we want to say that regions are not just geographical spaces on a map, they are actually also social constructions. And if we are talking about the role of youth, then maybe they will not be the one signing the agreements between the countries, but they can be the one promoting this regionness from the bottom up, turning us more and more into regional community. And in matters of the youth ecosystem in the region, I won't get too much into details here, but I will say that youth organizations are working in a very complex, multi-layer ecosystem, and it's not easy. They need to speak many languages, literally, but also they need to work with international organizations. They need to work with national and regional entities. They need to work with civic networks. But what we did see through the analysis of the mapping is that almost 80% of the organizations are actually civil society organizations, so they have their stand, and 60% out of them are youth-led, so the agency is good. But we've also noticed unfulfilled potential. Why? Because most of these organizations, like 67%, operate at the national level, and also almost half of them have some kind of cross-border collaboration, international collaboration. Only 19% work across the MENA region. So we still have a long to go, and the challenge is not the number of factors or the motivation. It's actually connectivity and a regional focus. We need to prioritize cross-border collaboration in MENA, which is not the case right now. And the good news is that we do see a shift in the way that youth are perceived across the region. If you think about the Arab Spring, when youth were described mostly maybe as a socioeconomic challenge, maybe even as a threat sometimes to internal stability, now we see a perception that see the youth as a national asset. And I brought 2 quotes from great leaders. One is Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, president of the UAE, who said in February 2015 that our best bet at this period of time where we have wealth is to invest all our resources in education. 50 years from now, after we have loaded this last barrel of oil, are we going to feel sad? If our investment today is right, I think we will celebrate that moment. And from the UAE to Morocco, the King of Morocco, King Mohammed VI, said in August 2012, which is, by the way, it was on the national occasion or National Day of Youth in Morocco, which is also his birthday. He said, you are, the country's youth are our foremost asset. Youth must not be perceived as a burden on society, but rather as a patent force that contributes to the nation's development. And we've seen this perception move forward with the leadership of Jordan this time, and changing from national asset to actually see the youth as peace builders and the concept of youth diplomacy. And the focal point was, can you hear me well? Yeah, okay. And the focal point was 2015 with the Amman Youth Declaration that embraces the new global agenda on youth, promoting their role in peace and security, which a few months later also was embraced by the UN Security Council Resolution 2020-50. And from there, the development or the momentum that grew for the concept of youth diplomacy, which is not a new thing, but afterwards it became more central. But there are also challenges, and we've seen and we learned about the challenges from the interviews we conducted with the youth leaders, like geopolitical barriers, the visa restrictions, the limited mobility, ongoing conflicts. If we are talking about cultural complexity, the MENA region is very complex. So yeah, diversity is something good, but it can also be a challenge when we want to do cross-border collaboration. Organizational fragility, dependence on external and short-term funding, which lead to limited capacity to retain staff, preserve knowledge, etc. And the competency gaps. As you have seen, the ecosystem is quite complex. It's not easy to work in such a complexity. And here I want to bring some of the voices that we heard through the interviews. The first is Wissam Ziada, the founder of an organization called Tekadum. It's a Palestinian organization. And although she comes from the heart of a conflict, she decided to emphasize not just the aspiration for coexistence, but the importance of co-creation. And she said, we don't want only to talk about the conflict, we want to improve our organization and build genuine partnerships. It's the growth of an entire community. The second voice comes from Aram Akil, who is the co-lead of Yekmal. It's a Kurdish organization based in Germany. And it teaches us something about the possible role of diaspora, which is not only an immigration issue, as usually described, but can enable us some things. And I want to give you the floor to read it because you are here with us, so why should I read it?
Thank you, Einat. Thank you, everyone. I'll keep it very short in 3 sentences. I lead Yekmal e.V. It's a Kurdish-German social educational NGO. We are distributed in 6 main states inside Germany. In Kurdish, the word Yekmal means Yek, one, Mal is house. And we operate in 6 different languages, in Kurdish and Arabic, in Turkish and Persian, in English and German. So people from 6 different communities come to us. Whenever they knock the door, there is someone for them opening the door. So we use the languages which we use them as a tool for the regional cooperation. And at the beginning, that wasn't the target of using different languages. It was just a mean of communication with the target group. But with the time, we figured out that that is really useful for the communities in the diaspora who are speaking with these languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Aram. And we have another quote. It's the last one. And this one, it's from Salwa Abu Kashef, who is also with us. And she talks about the power of youth exchanges.
السلام عليكم. راح أحكي في تفاصيل بسيطة عن المشوار مشلاحة الوفد العربي الإسرائيلي الدولي اللي تواجد في المغرب، وكان في بيننا وبين المغرب مجموعة ثانية اللي هم طلاب جامعيين اللي تعلمنا وتعلموا على المجتمع العربي اللي عايش في دولة إسرائيل، كيف الفكر كيف المبدأ. ونفس الشيء تواجدوا هم عندنا في دولة إسرائيل وعملوا زيارات في كل البلدان العربية وكمان اليهودية، لأنه إحنا في الأول وفي الآخر بنآمن في الإنسانية والتعايش المشترك اللي إحنا بنقدر نبنيه مع بعض. شكرا.
Thank you, Salwa. And she described what you could read in English at her quote. And I'm almost done. I want to point some of the recommendations we found through the research. The first one is that we should strengthen regional youth organization, because the youth organization, not just the focus on the individuals, can be the key actors, the game changer of regionalization across MENA. And the second one is to promote co-creation as a model of regional collaboration, because when we do co-creation, we create a joint product together where each one of us has something in it. So we're already creating a sense of belonging through this, and not just by sharing, simple kind of sharing models. The third is to leverage diaspora communities as regional bridges, because they are the ambassadors of the MENA region worldwide. So we need to include them in the way we do things here. Use shared heritage as a tool for trust building and for regional sense of belonging, because it's easier when we go back to our shared heritage, and we have it in the MENA region because we lived here for so many years. Then we don't talk anymore about the other. We talk about the we. We are all part of a we. And to invest in young women as drivers of regional integration, because this voice is really, it's missing from the picture. Just imagine a family without a mother, and you will understand what is missing. And create digital pathway for entrepreneurship and employment, and the digital arena in general helps us overcome some of the challenges that derives from the lack of mobility, the visa restriction, etc. Adopt flexible and minilateral models of cooperation. We are part of the MENA region, many countries. So maybe we can do things also in smaller groups. And develop youth diplomacy organizational competencies. And because we didn't want to leave it just as a theory, we actually created the model of this training based on 3 pillars. One is the knowledge, what those organizations need to know about the region in order to do successful collaborations. Secondly, the personal skills. And thirdly, the organizational competencies. And also 8 clusters that you can see, from geopolitical literacy to intercultural communication, interface literacy, ethics and international norms, conflict management, because whoever works in this region has to have this skill as well. Public and digital diplomacy. Once you understand the region, you can start talk about it outside and make it visible. Strategic thinking, future literacy, and multi-partner collaboration at the end. Peace is another word for regionalism. So peace, it's also something that grows. And if we go back to the research question, and what is the role of youth, then states sign agreements, youth organizations build the human infrastructure that allows them to endure through trust, relationship, and shared experiences. They help lay the foundation for a future of regional community. Thank you. And you're welcome to scan this QR, to follow us, to join the network. And if you want the full text of the research, then this is the way to get it. Or you can take the executive summary. And thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much, dear Einat, for this beautiful presentation. Actually, you shed light on the role of the youth, on the significant role of the youth as protagonists, and they are at the forefront of the development in the society and the well-wisher of humanity, and how they are promoter of peace. And this is wonderful, the presentation that you provided today. Thank you very much. And since today's session is mainly about family, the role of family, institutions, faith-based communities, and organizations in promoting social cohesion and coexisting tolerance in societies. So maybe I will start just with a text about the context about this discussion, that in discussions about the family and society, usually the focus will be always on about the challenges, such as generational gaps, economic pressure, cultural shifts, and the weakening of social bonds. Yet the deeper question is not only about the nature of these challenges, but about the lens through which we view them. Do we really see the family as a fragile institution constantly under threat, or as a living and dynamic environment capable of developing new capacities, shaping vision, and contributing to a more cohesive and united society? The lens which we understand the family from profoundly shapes the way we envision the future of our society and communities. Because the family is not merely a social unit, it is the first environment in which individuals begins to learn the meaning of living with the others. Within the family, the foundation of love, justice, compassion, cooperation, equality, mutual respect will be cultivated first. What individuals learn within their family life is later reflected in how they will engage with the others in the wider society. Today, we will reflect on how digital platform, cultural dialogue, family, and community engagement can contribute to mutual understanding, shared value, and social cohesion. So we would like to welcome our panelists today. Maybe I will briefly introduce all of you first, and then we'll address the question to each one of you. We have our dear panelist, Ms. Ella Alakai, the former chair of the International Women's Network and senior partner at IBI Investment House. And we have Dr. Lisa Springer, Dean of the Division of Lifelong and Professional Studies and Associate Provost of the Continuing and Digital Learning at the Jewish Theological Seminary, and Ms. Mas Watat, a social entrepreneur, public health inventor, and a founder of Dawsat, the Arab world's first digital wellness community dedicated to sustainable life and change. And of course, we are so happy to have with us Mr. Pranav Desai, director of the BAPS Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi. Through his leadership in community engagement, interfaith dialogue, and public relation, he has helped strengthen understanding and collaboration across diverse communities in the UAE. Welcome, dear speakers. So, Ms. Ella, maybe if you don't mind, we will start with you. How can collaboration between cultural leaders, community institutions, and educational organizations foster stronger social cohesion from your point of view?
Thank you. So as my title says, I come from finance. This is a strange panel for me to sit on, but I will bring my perspective into this conversation. And so, you know, for most of human history, family and community were very obvious to us, and they were our immediate surrounding. But to think that during my lifetime, the world population has grown threefold. I mean, there were 2 billion people around the earth when I was born, and there are now almost 9 billion people. And I think Thomas Friedman had this, he wrote this book probably 20 years ago, Hot, Flat, and Crowded, I think was the title. And so throughout our lifetime, the world has become flat in the sense that it's very easy for us to meet other people. Certainly if you walk around Abu Dhabi, you get to see people from all over the world. And at the same time, it is incredibly crowded, and which makes us possibly more fearful of other people, more in need to step away from other people. And so we live in this world where we are in constant search of getting back to community, finding our community. And community is sort of the opposite of diversity, because if we're looking for community, basically we shy away from people who are not part of our community. And I think cultural leaders especially, but also our organizations and institutions are built in a way that does not address our basic need of, on the one hand, finding our community, and then on the other hand, really embracing diversity and not by finding a community sort of pushing away everyone else that is not part of our community. And in the digital world, that becomes more extreme. And because what the digital world does for us is it invents these communities that we're comfortable in and sort of helps us move away from communities that are different from us. And I think by embracing cultural differences. So the panel here before us, one of the things that they were talking about was they gave an example of how cultural leaders will take, translate the culture for others to see. And that is not good enough. It's not just about reading and seeing. It's about basically showing, human contact. Mas and myself, if we can do something together, whatever it is we do together, it is way stronger than me explaining Judaism to Mas and Mas explaining Islam to me. Because that would just be intellectual. But we really, once we talk about community, it's about feeling. And if we could get our cultural leaders to just sit together, show humanity, do things that are ordinary life things in a way that we can see that, okay, diversity works, that would, and not just be focused on their basic job, which is being a cultural leader or being an institutional leader or whatever your job is. If you could take that job and just find a colleague that is different, showing or helping people feel diversity as a power, I think is way stronger than anything else we can do.
Thank you very much, dear Ella. I mean, this is a very important point that you mentioned. The focus point will be what values that can be drive societies in order to have this unity, which the point that you shared about the importance of unity in diversity.
And
to seeing
feeling
strength.
Yeah, not just understanding intellectually, but actually just by feeling that the connection.
Because these are actually spiritual values. Absolutely. Thank you very much. We move on to dear Pravan. As a faith-based community leader, so how can families and community institutions contribute to strengthening intercultural understanding and coexistence from your point of view?
Thank you, Dr. Roya, first of all, for hosting this beautiful session. What a wonderful topic they have selected for this conference, right? The impact of new media and AI on families and communities, right? It is happening, first of all. There is an impact of AI on all of us. But the question that you ask, Roya, is how we can enhance this coexistence. Now, this coexistence cannot be taught, again, this is my view, not in a conference halls like this, let's say. It can be discussed, yes, but it is taught in the living rooms of the families. So when the kids are small and when the parents talk about somebody else in front of them, that is when the first time the kids kind of understand what is tolerance, what is harmony. I still remember, I'll tell you my example as an Hindu follower, let's say from India. When I was small, my mother and my grandmother used to teach me in Sanskrit. It's a language in India. And they always used to teach me that Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava. So it is like revere your mother and father as divine. So it starts from the family bonding first. But at the same time, they were teaching me Vasudeva Kutumbakam. That concept is that treat the entire world as one family. So from your family to treating the entire world as your family. So why I'm coming to, the question is how can family and the faith institution can teach that? So the family is most important. Coming to the second part, which is the faith institutions, I'll keep it very short. They are just not buildings, because we have visited churches, mosques, synagogues, the temple, mandir. They are not just building, but they are teaching two key important things to the new generation, or they should. First of all is they should teach every individual and teach them that they should be proud of who we are. they should know who they are, let's say. Their roots should be very important. And second thing is, I honor and respect for who you are. So these two teachings are very important, because I know if your roots are stronger, then the branches are more kinder, right? If you are not connected to your roots, you cannot understand others also, let's say. So that is the role of the faith organization, to connect the people to their roots and to the values. And just an example I would like to share here is I'll tell you a practical example. I belong to the Hindu temple which is there in Abu Dhabi. What better example of coexistence and harmony than the temple itself? Imagine it's a Hindu temple, but the land is kind of donated by a Muslim ruler of UAE. The chief architect is Mr. Michael, who is a Christian Catholic. The designer is Mr. Tao, he is a Buddhist, let's say. The chief engineer and the project director is from the Sikh community. And our project chairman, who was there today in this conference, he is from the Jain tradition. So imagine all the different kind of communities coming together to build a place of worship. So what better example that we see here in Abu Dhabi. So finally, I just will stop here, Ruya, but my message is very simple. Know your prayer. Greet your neighbor. At the same time, in the world of AI, validate things before you start sharing. Because, 70% of things are fakes, and, people love to, forward the fakes, let's say. And more important is interact or invite people before you criticize them. Because, if you don't know the people, and exactly I agree with you, you have to meet with them face to face. And the more interactions you do with face to face, with other people, with other community, you will learn more. So that is what I have to share today. Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your insights. And it's interesting that how it emphasizes as well on the importance of teaching the values of faith, whatever faith, but in the family that starts, but not only teaching it for the sake of becoming religious, but how really to practice it in the society, but what values even to focus. When you were mentioning certain quotes, it revolves all, most of them about how to have the relationship with the others, respecting others, hearing others, being generous with others. So it's always about others from the perspective of the values that we teach in the family. Thank you very much for your perspective. Now, we're so happy to have you with us, Miss Mas. أستاذة ماس، ممكن تشاركينا بتجربتك في بناء جسور بين المجتمعات؟ So would you like please to share with us your experience in bridging the gaps between communities and societies, as we heard that you have experience in this field?
أولاً شكراً دكتورتنا الجميلة على الاستضافة الرائعة وعلى البانل الرائع. أنا بشرفني طبعاً أحكي باللغة العربية، بما أنه بانل حضارات وهوية، هويتي أحكي بالعربي وبفتخر فيها، فأنا قررت أني رغم أنه البانل في الإنجليزي أني أحكي بالعربي كجزء من حضارتنا، هويتنا وثقافتنا وجذورنا. شكراً. أنا خبرتي من 25 سنة في بناء جسور وحضارات. طبعاً أنا ما بدي أحكي نظرية، بدي أحكي إشي عملي أنا عشته. قبل 25 سنة بلشت مجموعة واحدة عندي في البيت. المجموعة كانت 10 نساء. خلال 3 شهور صاروا 100 امرأة، وخلال سنة صاروا 1000 امرأة. من وين هدول النساء؟ هدول النساء كانوا من دايلة الكرمل، عسفية، حيفا، عكا، الناصري، أم الفحم، القدس، طول كرم، رام الله، ومن جنين، من الشمال في الجولان، ومن الجنوب في رهط. كنت أتغدى منسف برهط عند البدو، وأتعشى في القدس، وأنزل أكمل بعدها بيوم من الصبح أصبح في قلنسة وبالطيبة. ثقافة الحضارات وتغيير الثقافات بين المجتمعات كثير بتفرق. يعني أكون ساعة مع مجموعة درزية، وبعدها أنتقل ساعة مع مجموعة مسلمة، وكمان بعدها ساعة مجموعة نساء مسيحية، وبعدها أطلع على مجموعة بحيفا ميكس وعكا ميكس. هذا إشي بنى ثقافة وحضارة. الناس كلياتها ما في فرق بين الهوية عندها. كلياتها مجتمعة عشان يكون هدفها صحة، مجتمع أفضل، حياة أفضل، ويكون في عندها جودة حياة. فأنا بالنسبة لإلي كل الناس مجتمعة لهدف واحد، لا فرق لا في الديانة ولا في الثقافة ولا في نوع الأكل اللي بحطوه. رغم إنه كل مطبخنا العربي في الشرق الأوسط متشابه، تبولي بتفرق هون وهون بس كلها تبولي بالتالي. فبالتالي بناء ثقافات وحضارات معتمد على عدة الجمعات هاي الحلوة اللي الناس كلياتها بتجتمع عشان هدف واحد، ما إله علاقة بالهوية، إله علاقة بكيف إحنا نبني هدفنا السامي من جودة ومن صحة أفضل. بعد النجاح الرهيب وبعد 60,000 قصة نجاح بالمجتمع بالثقافات المختلفة، صاروا يجون نساء من السعودية، من الإمارات، من الكويت، على عياتي في طول كرم وفي نابلس، عملنا مجموعاتنا النسائية بعطلة الصيف. ماس ليش فيش عنا دوسات؟ فهاي الحضارات أجت لعنا عشان تطلب ثقافة دوسات، لأنها جمعت بين عدة نساء وثقافات. واللي صار إنه قبل 25 سنة ما كان في تكنولوجيا، فأنا بنيت أول موقع في التغذية والصحة وأبليكيشن تطبيق في التغذية والصحة عشان يجمع كل هاي النساء. فالتكنولوجيا عملت جسر بين الحضارات، ونقلنا دوسات على كل بيت في العالم العربي، وبلشنا نعمل مجموعات أونلاين. وفي المجموعة بتشوفي إماراتية، مصرية، سعودية، فلسطينية، أردنية، كلياتهم إيد وحدة لمستقبل أفضل وصحة أفضل، والحمد لله.
Okay, maybe I will briefly summarize. Help me again with the points that she raised. She discussed, dear Mas, about her experience being with diverse cultures, diverse groups of different religions within the cities that she works with, and how it was enriching for her to know these cultures and these different religions groups of women where they gathered together, and how they, despite of these differences, but they were united in their vision, they united on their purpose, where they enjoy their day together, and she developed this app for health and for health, I think, of the body, and how and it reflected different cultures of different groups of people living in that city. So basically, what I can take from her point is, when we see identity, we might think that identity is always only about language, about the color, but actually it could be also another level of identity where we see the human identity, that there is no difference. The way she was discussing, she says that really we don't see any differences when we look from that perspective. We are all one. So this is another higher level of identity, we can call it, that unites us together. Thank you very much, dear Mas. We would move on to Dr. Lisa. Dr. Lisa, what role do digital and cultural narratives play in promoting understanding and reducing misunderstanding between communities, from your point of view?
So specifically about digital.
If you
no, absolutely. Well, first I want to make a few comments about things that my colleagues have said about community and diversity, because I think it's so inspiring to think about those two things. I grew up in the Middle East, in Egypt, Iran, Lebanon, and Libya. And so from a very early age, I learned about diversity, and I felt like it was just so important. And later, I was the academic director of the Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Scholars Program and the NYU Abu Dhabi Summer Academy. And I really appreciated in the UAE the way the community was so strong and the openness to diversity that existed simultaneously. So I think digital platforms are agnostic in terms of whether they are bringing people together or putting people apart. They're just tools, and it's really up to us to decide how to use them to bring people together. In the Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Scholars Program, we used an online platform to create an incredible community of learning together across continents with lots of diverse people. And because we were using the tool intentionally to have intimacy, and I think people talk a lot about these tools making people very separate and lonely, but I also think sometimes when you're by yourself in your own room and you're talking to a group of people online, it can also be incredibly intimate. I had been teaching in the classroom for years and years before I was suddenly online, and I became completely addicted in a very positive way to my class. I went to my class every day to see what people were saying because we had created such a very intimate community. So tell me the question again. What is the role of digital?
Digital platforms can be used to preserve cultural identity while encouraging global dialogue.
Yeah, so yes, I think exactly that was an example of where we were talking a lot about our own identities, but we were doing it across difference. And I think those are not in opposition to each other at all, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lisa. I think as well, from what I understand of the role of digital era now, especially in social cohesion and family as well. I mean, the conversation we had also with different panels as well discuss about that it's not value free. It also informs how we actually use that as well. With what purpose? Does it unite people, or it can be used in bringing more conflicts, more disunity, spreading different patterns of thoughts that actually talks about us and them. But now we're talking about how it can be used more in a united aspects as well. So maybe I can ask this question to also all of you, since we are in a year of family in the UAE as well, and it's part of the also coexistence umbrella. So what do you think that could be the values or approaches or strategies that families can really work on, cultivate in its members, in its practice, in order really to promote social cohesion in the society? Maybe we can take time for all of you to share your thoughts.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you based on our practical experience, let's say, we have children and youths who are coming as part of our community. And what we do is we invite people from other faiths to come to our temple, which is a place of worship, and explain their ritual in the way they perform, let's say. Because sometimes, as you just mentioned, by listening to somebody at an intellectual level is something different. So my important message is have that interfaith dialogue, let's say, as much as possible. I myself have attended so many interfaith dialogues, which I think, Dr. Ruya, you were also part of it, let's say. The more you interact at a human level, the more we will be able to understand each other. And I think we are deliberately doing programs for the younger generations because they need more help. They are more exposed to the AI than we are, let's say, at this point. And I wanted to reiterate the digital point. The digital platforms are really there everywhere. I have a technology background. I work with the finance background, let's say. I myself am working on the AI applications. So now AI is going to be everywhere. In future, our speeches would also be written by AI. Let's say we don't have to do it. In maybe 2 years down the line, there would be an avatar of us who would be talking rather than us talking. We never know. So things are going to change drastically. But idea is, as a lot of thinkers have said, is we have to be rooted to our values, to our culture. And more importantly, you have to disconnect from this digital media. So digital fasting, as we all call it, let's say. So we have to start practicing that slowly, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes in a day. Because, we have an habit, the moment you wake up, the first thing you need is you look at your mobile, let's say. So that is where I think we all need to learn. So more of human interactions and less of digital interactions, even though it is very positive. It connects me while sitting here. I can be connected somebody sitting in San Francisco and we can exchange good ideas, let's say. I'm not against that. but at some point of time we have to disconnect from that and talk with the neighbor or the person sitting in your room, you know. So I think that is what we should encourage, and that's what we are doing from a faith perspective.
Thank you very much. Dear Ella.
So maybe just to add a thought that in this era where families often are disconnected without the possibility of digital connection, they would just totally disintegrate. So the fact that we can have some, part of the family has a relocation and finds itself living somewhere else, and we can still have this basic daily interaction through digital platforms, and possibly also be able to expose each other to our very diverse surrounding if we're living in different countries with different cultures. Both of these could be very, very positive.
بالنسبة لإلي التسامح والتعايش ببلش من العائلة، لا يدرس بالمدارس. فلما الأولاد بيشوفوا الأب والأم بتصرفوا بتسامح وبتعايش وبسلام، هم نفسهم رح يطلعوا مع سلام. أنا ذاكري نفسي قبل 40 سنة، ذاكري هذا الموقف لما سيدي الله يرحمه وأبوي الله يرحمه عزموا رئيس الدولي على البلد، وقالوا لي ماس سلمي عليه وأعطيه غصن زيتون وقولي له مد إيدك للسلام. فإحنا تعايشنا على السلام، إحنا تربينا على السلام، إحنا تربينا على بيت إنه السلام والتعايش والتسامح والمسامح هو الرابح، هو الإنسان اللي بعيش مع سعادة وبعيش مع هناء وبعيش مع سلام داخلي، واللي عنده سلام داخلي بيقدر يعطي، واللي ما عنده سلام داخلي وعايش مع كراهية مع حقد ومع حسد ومع لؤم أصلا ما بعرف شو طعم السعادة. فمن هون ببلش التربية وببلش التعاون وببلش التسامح وببلش النجاح من الأب والأم.
Yes, very true. Basically, maybe briefly, she's emphasized about that children learn from their parents by the practice in the home, actually, how to be tolerant with others and coexisted with others. Because she recalls the story that how her parents received someone and they and said, let's give the branch of the peace to that person. The president, I think you mentioned.
Shimon Peres.
Yes. So, and what she's emphasizing that actually true tolerance and coexistence brings happiness, true happiness for any person and true peace inside as well, the person itself. Please, Dr.
Yeah, so I just want to add, one of the things that I feel is important to think about with digital tools is inclusion of all people. Because there's such a big divide, and we talk about the digital divide between generations and with marginalized people having less access to tools. And even inside families, often the way that the parents use digital tools and the way children use digital tools are very different. At a panel earlier, we were talking about how it's important for parents to understand the way their children are using the digital tools. And I would go even one step further and think the parents need to really learn the tools so that they're using them so that they can understand from an inside point of view. So I think families are a great place to create greater unity of understanding of digital tools. I think, to really bring people together that way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lisa. I would like to just leave a few minutes for the participants here if you would like to share any thoughts, any remark with us. We have youth here, we have
questions,
any remark or any thought or reflection or insights you would like to share.
Yeah.
السلام عليكم. معكم الدكتورة نبيلة حماد، دكتوراه في إدارة الأعمال. عندي مؤسسة، أنا مدير ومؤسس مؤسسة للاستشارات والدراسات الإدارية. بحب أسأل الأستاذة ماس، بما أنك كان عندك تجمع ثقافي مختلف الجنسيات مختلف الثقافات، إلى أي مدى ساهم الاستثمار في رأس المال البشري بناء على القيم الإنسانية والأخلاقية وكان ركيزة لبناء الحضارات؟
شكرا دكتور على السؤال. أعتقد أنه لما نجمع أولاً وجود أكثر من 60,000 قصة نجاح على مدار أكثر من 25 سنة، هذا بناء حضارة بكامله. فبالنسبة لإلي فخر واعتزاز وبعتز بقصص النجاح اللي عنا من اختلاف الثقافات واختلاف الحضارات. إنه نجمع ثقافات مختلفة من دول مختلفة في نفس الأونلاين جروب، وكله بيحكي في نفس النمط وفي نفس الدعم وبهدف واحد سامي، هذا تغيير بالثقافات والحضارات. ما حدا بيطلع لا على هوية ولا على جنسية ولا على لمين أنتمي، كله بيطلع إنه بدي أكون بصحة أفضل، وزن أحسن، أكل أفضل، وأحافظ على عائلتي. بتوقع بالتالي إنه الكل بده يعيش بسلام وأمان ونبتعد كلياتنا عن عدم التسامح والكراهية. فهذا كلياته ببني ثقافات وحضارات بقمة الرقاوة.
Thank you very much, dear panelists and our guests. We are so happy to have you with us in this session, and thank you for your remarkable contribution to this discussion. Maybe I will just conclude this session that the reality today calls for re-examination of some of our prevailing assumptions and practices, and for a reimagining of the role of the family, community, organization in ways that respond to the realities of an increasing interconnected and diverse world. Today's society requires new moral capacities, virtues, and patterns of relationships that strengthen unity, oneness of humanity, mutual respect, and a shared sense of responsibility for the well-being of all humanity. Thank you very much.